Khalsa, Waigachifte, Sangat. Super excited to share this discourse with you today. I wish somebody would have shared a discourse like this with me before I got started my journey. Would have saved me a lot of trouble. So today, I wish to talk about some of the red flags that we see in spirituality out there in our lives, and just how simple the masters make spirituality for us all to walk the path, as long as we understand what it is. And while we could sit here today and talk about, quantum leaping into different timelines to manifest your best life ever, traversing different dimensions in the never-ending multiverse, or wielding various occult powers to become a powerful multidimensional being, and those may be some enticing topics, because you may know nothing about them at all. And well, it may sound like I do know something about them. But just understand this: in the marketplace of spirituality, it only takes someone having 1% more knowledge than another for the mind to consider them an expert in that field, even though they may know nothing about what they are talking about. Even if it just sounds like they know 1% more than you, your mind may assume that they are an expert in that subject matter. And that's how gullible and stupid our minds are. Then factor in all of our subconscious desires, that lust after knowledge, that lust after power, and a whole slew of things it shouldn't. And we can begin to see why we want to believe literally anyone that will tell us what we want to hear, while having our souls fleeced in the marketplace of spirituality. And these spiritual shops are literally set up everywhere. All you have to do is look at the ads in your Facebook feed, and they're selling you hopes, dreams, and desires, often catering to your most base wants, such as manifesting more money. Who wouldn't like that, right? The perfect life partner, or the very cliche and much overused best life ever. It's akin to the spiritual version of keeping up with the Joneses. One common thread between these types of people is I manifested this. I manifested that. My dream life. It's all about me, mine. It is the I. You see, Wame is a sneaky form of spiritual ego, masquerading as being a better version of your old self when you quote unquote awaken. But in reality, it's the same exact thing with some polish and shine. A pair of old shoes that got polished up, but it's still doing the same old song and dance. Nothing has really changed at its core. The ego is still in the driver's seat, and the divine is still separate from man as the play of duality continues on and on. And often these teachings are paired with complex techniques that move the aspirant up the ladder to receive even more complex understandings and techniques. Then, of course, there's the secret techniques that no one is supposed to know, hidden behind a closed door, that keeps you desiring to stay connected to the path they've laid out before you, in hopes that you'll get the technique of all techniques, the one that will get you to enlightenment, or whatever it is that they're selling you. And if you never had this type of experience, then consider yourself lucky. But some of us don't have the fortune of such good karma, myself included. And however, in truth, the true path of spirituality is very simple. Very simple. So simple that sometimes it is complicated for the mind to wrap its head around, because the mind likes to overcomplicate even the most simple of things. Simply saying, it can't be that easy, can it? That's just too easy. I don't believe it. We must make it harder, more complicated, so that I can feel like I achieved something. It's a belief system many of us carry, and it's preventing us from actually walking a very easy path of spirituality. And in fact, it's this simplicity of the true path that makes it so challenging for many. His Holiness, Baba Jaswant Singh Ji, infinite peace and blessings be upon his soul, would often remind the Sangat that there are two wings to the bird of your spiritual ascension. On one wing is Simran, or to meditate on the name of the divine, over and over again. And the other wing is Seva, or to selflessly serve the Sad Sangat, the company of the pious. In this way, you shall rise to the highest levels of your soul's spiritual evolution. That's all, folks. That's it. The entire discourse of spiritual life can be summed up in a few sentences. We really don't need endless courses, endless techniques. We don't need to endlessly search for this or that. And Babaji made it even more simple. Simran and Seva are the two wings to the bird that will take you to the heights of your spirituality. Two concepts, one sentence, follow it all the way to the top, if you wish. And that is mastery. To be able to distill entire institutions, entire libraries of spiritual knowledge, and entire paths of spirituality into a single sentence. 99.9% of the world falls into dust in that one sentence. Now we must remember that His Holiness Baba Jaswant Singh Ji, Babaji, was no ordinary man. Babaji was considered one of the top saints, if not the top saint of his time, and had achieved a level of clarity that was divinely inspired that few may ever hope to even understand, let alone achieve in this lifetime. But he came here as a way shower to illuminate a path to the divine for those souls that wish to walk the true path of spirituality. So let us do our best to understand the simplicity of Babaji's message. And so we must ask ourselves, well, the first wing, what is Simran? And Simran is the repetition of the Shabad, or the Shabd. Shah meaning ego, and Bad meaning to cut. Ego is how we identify and relate ourselves with the external world. It is the culmination of every single decision, agreement, and contract we have made with ourselves over the innumerable number of lifetimes to become who we are right here, right now. The Shabd is the mantra. The mantra is the word is a sound. The sound is a frequency. The frequency is a vibration of creation. Therefore, everything came from the Shabd, from this vibration. And by chanting the Shabd, we can send everything back and uncreate our ego, peeling back layer by layer of our egos until only our true selves remain. As the spiritually enlightened say, when I no longer exist, only you remain. You being the divine. And so what is the advice of the enlightened? Meditate, meditate, meditate. Chant the name of the divine and transcend your worldly desires and woes. The name of the divine is in whichever way you connect to the divine, whether that name be Jesus, Allah, Buddha, Krishna, Waheguru, or other. And the Shabd auto-magically cleanses, clears, and purifies your karma, releasing entanglements with the 5 thieves of anger, lust, greed, ego, and attachment, while simultaneously cultivating the 5 divine virtues of contentment, compassion, love, truth, and humility within you, as long as you chant with love and devotion in your heart. For our intention amplifies the strength of the Shabd in everything we do in life, and it is the secret ingredient that makes it work. Without putting your heart into it, you would literally be wasting your time. If you're going to do a practice to raise your vibration, then give it your all. Put your heart and soul into it. You have to ask yourself seriously, who is going to give 10% to the creator of the universe and everything there within and expect him to take you seriously, when according to the scriptures, there are millions upon millions of angelic beings pining for hundreds, if not thousands of years, just so that they can have a chance at taking birth and merge into oneness. We have an incredible opportunity as humans. I'll expand on that a little bit later. And you're telling me that we're going to give it 10, 20, 30%? Just give me a break. Either show up in your fullness and give everything, or don't waste your time. There's infinite ways through the infinite maze. And the divine knows the heart of all beings and rewards those that are true. So stay true to the true you. And that's just half the equation. Simple enough, right? Chant the mantra with your heart. What's the other half? Seva. So what is Seva? Seva is selfless service. Seva is that service that is rendered without expectation. No expectation of monetary exchange, egoic validation, wanting recognition, or to prove that you're a good person. Absolutely none of that. It is simply to show up 100% for the greatest good for whomever it is that you're serving in that moment. And Seva may take on a myriad of forms. You may be lending an ear to a friend that is in emotional distress, volunteering to help out with a community project, or spreading the message of Dharma to the world. And for the true spiritualist, having the opportunity to perform Seva is considered an honor. So one should perform Seva with happiness in their hearts. And it should not be seen as a chore or something that you have to do, but rather something that you get to do. It is an opportunity to serve the divine himself. And once again, giving our absolute best is the very least that we could do. In fact, as a rule of life, we should always put our best foot forward. For what you put out is what you get back. So do your best to give your best, no matter what. And as my master would often remind me, Seva, Simran, Seva, Simran, Seva, Simran. Flap these two wings of the bird to reach the heights of your spirituality. And so as we are flapping these wings, we rise higher. And as we rise higher, our perspective broadens, and we can take in more information at once. And we begin to view life from a wider perspective. We learn to avoid those things that would bring us down and fly towards those things that will bring us even higher. At its essence, that is the path as it's been explained to me. And understanding just how simple that path is one thing. But along the way, to get to your destination of divine union, you have to understand that this path is a bit dangerous because there are bandits waiting to ambush you to ensure that your goods don't make it to their intended target. We must be spiritually wise and acutely aware to be able to circumnavigate these traps within ourselves, within others, and especially in who we choose to learn from. And so what are the red flags that we must become aware of? They are the 5 thieves that we spoke about earlier, of anger, lust, greed, ego, and attachment. Now, depending on each situation, a different response would be appropriate. So for today, we're just going to talk in generalities. But for instance, if you saw a red flag in a stranger, you may just walk the other way. It's easy. But if you saw a red flag in a close family member that you live with, there's absolutely no leaving that situation, and you will have to navigate it completely differently. So just please apply this to your situation uniquely. However, for this context, we will talk about ourselves and specifically spiritual teachers in these spiritual shops out there in the world. And so firstly, we must acquaint ourselves with the characteristics of the 5 thieves if they were to show up as a potential red flag. So for instance, if a spiritual teacher was afflicted with greed, perhaps he would want money from you in exchange for audience with him. He would reserve special teachings for those that could pay even more. He would try to use manipulative language or make you feel spiritually obligated to try and convince you to give him money for one reason or another. And you would sense a general desire for your pocketbook versus your actual well-being in general exchanges. And if it was lust, perhaps he would always be surrounded by the opposite sex, constantly being seen with different partners or multiple partners at once, make sexual advances towards the students, ask for private time away from the Sangat where no one could see, make inappropriate comments or ask people to do inappropriate things just to feed his lustful desires. And if you even have to question this within yourself, like it's just a little gray area, you're like, I don't know, then you know what? It's just better to err on the safe side with that one, especially for the women in our Sangat. And if it was anger, then it would be glaringly obvious. Most spiritual teachers have to keep their anger down. Otherwise, they could never convince the masses that they were peaceful, loving people. Not to mention, everyone knows what anger looks and sounds like. It's a very common thing that we all deal with. However, if they are doing a good job masking an issue in public, then you would know by the general sense of fear from the people that surround them if anger was an issue. And the next two are a little bit sneakier, with ego being the sneakiest, because most teachers will not outright say, I am the greatest teacher in the entire universe, and the ones that do can be easily avoided. But this can come in sneakier forms, such as, I am the student and you're the teacher. Naturally, there will be a respectful hierarchy between the two, but this can become extreme if feeding one's ego and become a point that amplifies a spiritual teacher's air of superiority, which makes his students feel inferior on purpose. Perhaps they are constantly boasting about their accomplishments, their associations, their spiritual attainments, or the like in order to receive more praise for their overinflated sense of self, or to make his followers think he's the chosen one and they aren't. And lastly, attachment could be seen if the teacher is constantly hounding you and not wanting you to go anywhere else except their teachings. They wouldn't respect the natural ebb and flow of a seeker's right to search and would try to control you or your life to keep you in their community and their community alone. Yes, ultimately, you want to plant firm roots in one line to grow deeper roots, but you have the right as a seeker to explore before you decide what teachings to commit to. And these are some of the red flags to be aware of when you go out into the world of spirituality. You can learn from everyone and everything, but to dedicate your life to a spiritual teacher is a critical decision on the path of the true spiritualist. You can't just rush into a decision like that, and you should really take your time. Observe the teacher and his teachings. Does he exhibit a red flag or two or more? If so, that's all the reason that you should slowly exit stage left and move on to greener pastures. Otherwise, you may be taking a detour on your path of spiritual growth, or worse, even go backwards if you fall in line with the wrong teachings. And in this way, the five thieves are one riverbank for the flowing river to return back to the ocean of oneness. And on the other side are the divine virtues of contentment, compassion, love, truth, and humility. And these are the characteristics that we would want to look for in a teacher and would hope that we could find such a being that would embody all five of them, for they will only but accelerate our path of spiritual growth. And while the path of spirituality in its essence itself may not be complicated, finding a true spiritual teacher can be far trickier due to the mass amount of fake gurus and masters that are out there promoting themselves in the world these days. And these false prophets for profit aren't interested in your spiritual profit, but to line their own pockets. They claim they have achieved, yet they have not even overcome the five thieves, let alone begin to have walked the true path of spirituality. They deceive you by feeding into your surface level desires while leaving your soul out to dry. And that's why it's so important to be aware of these potential red flags, so you don't waste your time. And it's important to find a true teacher, because they can help you navigate the most treacherous and daunting parts of the path with as much ease as possible given your karmic circumstances. Without such a teacher, the path will be far more difficult, or as my spiritual master would say, good luck. This analogy actually came to me as I was hiking yesterday. I was high in the mountains and I stumbled upon a flowing river, and I had to stop at the riverbank and survey what was the best way to cross the river. I looked at the layout of the stones, and then I had to test my foot on the stone before I could put all my weight on it to make sure that, it could carry my weight and I wasn't going to fall into the river. So that way I could safely get across. And it came to me that picking a spiritual master and a lineage of teachings is exactly the same. You have to make sure that teacher is solid and embodies the teachings that he's preaching. Otherwise, how will he be able to carry you across to the other side safely? If the foundation is weak, the stone would not be able to carry your weight and you'll fall into the river. But you won't know unless you test it first. And so I'll share this with you too. My master had told me, before I got more involved with Song of the Divine Light, he told me, just come to the discourse. See if the teachings resonate with you before committing to anything. To take as much time as you need so that you could really see if what he was sharing was built on a foundation of truth. And I have to say, 2 years later, I'm still here, continually growing from the perennial wisdom that's shared within Song of the Divine Light from all of our beautiful community members. So I implore you to find that teacher that doesn't focus on turning you into a follower and connecting you to themselves. Find that teacher that will connect you to the absolute truth, to the divine, and liberate yourself. Because in the scriptures, it says that there are 8.4 million species of life, and that we have gone through millions upon millions of lifetimes to achieve this human birth, which is why it's so special. Furthermore, that when we are human, we have a very unique opportunity to remember the divine and achieve union or yoga or merging into the divine or oneness, right? There's many different words and terminologies for this exact spiritual experience of enlightenment. So you don't want to waste this precious opportunity, because honestly, you have no idea when or if you'll ever take human birth again. And if you did, you may not remember as much as you do right now. So why do we forget? Because of Maya. And what is Maya? My master says, Maya in its most simple terms is anything that makes us forget the divine. That which makes us forget the divine takes us away from the divine. Certainly, we will need more than luck to overcome the infinite faces of Maya that are attempting to deceive us on a daily basis. From people, places, things, TV, music, movies, social media feeds, news, etc., etc. We're just right in the thick of it all, right smack dab in the middle, constantly being bombarded by endless distractions, trying to get us, look over here, look what I'm doing over here, dancing bears, and it's a whole circus. We'll need a disciplined meditation practice, good Sangat, to perform seva, a true spiritual master, and the blessings of the divine to stay connected. And as we like to say, once you're connected, you are protected, including being protected from getting lost in the illusion of Maya and the world of form. And I'll share a personal story of myself getting fleeced in these spiritual shops. Some of you may have known I've probably spent like $150,000, $200,000 trying to figure out the truth. And so this is just one little story. A few years back, you have to understand, some of these spiritual teachers are charging an arm and a leg for the spiritual knowledge. And I was just so hungry. I just had no idea. So you think, wow, they're charging a lot, for this experience. Whatever they're teaching must be the highest teaching, must be extremely valuable. It's as valuable as what they're charging. And of course, in those times, you value money, right? So it must be the best. So for example, I remember paying $6,000 for a 5-day retreat in Costa Rica. And I was going for a quantum healing course. And I would get a certificate from the School of Consciousness afterwards as a consolation for wasting all that money. Now, we were taught lots and lots of knowledge. There was, 5 days, 9 hours a day, technique after technique after technique, and deeper and deeper comprehension and understanding of how things work and this and that. And I remember one technique was a visualization meditation. And there were many, many steps, right? And from what I can remember, we had to set up a crystal grid, place your intention in each crystal on the grid, then connect it to like the central crystal in the center, then spin the crystal faster, then slow it down, reverse it, spin it faster again, send it out to the 12th dimension to manifest whatever you want or receive a healing from aliens that are in the higher dimensions. And that was the ultimate answer. That was these teachers, like hidden secret, the key to the universe. Literally, I am not making this up. I paid $6,000 for that after they had previously fleeced me for $5,000 before that. So learn from my mistakes, save yourself some money, and a lot of detours on the path of raising your consciousness. by becoming aware of these red flags. And if I knew about the red flags before, I would have never, ever got involved with that situation. I would have saved a ton of time and money. Because we have to understand that the divine is beyond the land of form. So do not get duped by fancy words, beautiful clothes, exotic locations, or slick marketing, all of which led up to me going to that retreat. The masters of masters never charged a single of penny for the absolute truth. They gave it away for free without discrimination to one and all, no matter what color, creed, or nation. True masters, such as Guruji. And this is a very, very short story of Guruji, Guru Nanak Dev Ji, as he was traveling in the south of India on one of his udasis, udasi being a spiritual mission. And he went to visit a large temple dedicated to Shiva. And there was a group of yogis sitting outside in samadhi, and they sensed him approaching. They opened their eyes and asked him, what are you doing here? Don't you know that they worship the formless in the form of the god Shiva here? And it was a fair question for one, such as Guruji, that had realized the formless Lord. But of course, that's exactly why Guruji was there, to share the message of the one divine creator that is beyond all description, to help illuminate the minds of those that would confine and define the divine with quote-unquote spiritual knowledge, to essentially idolatry, when you forget the formless and worship only the form. But what puts the formless into form? Why do we get so tricked? It's in formation. It's in the word. Information puts the formless into formation, i.e. knowledge. And in the Holy Scriptures it says the following: you may read and read loads of books. You may read and study a vast multitude of books. You may read and read boatloads of books. You may read and fill pits with them. You may read them year after year for as many months as there are. O Nanak, only one thing is of account. Everything else is useless babbling and idle talk and ego. The more one writes and reads, the more one burns. So we can say, yes, accumulation of knowledge from books, but also from experiences, from poor spiritual teachers, from the internet, this, that, the other thing, right? If we bring it to modern day, our modern day life. And you see, when our curiosity of the divine mystery is sparked, we develop a voracious appetite for knowledge. And the mind wanders in the 10 directions searching for answers, trying to figure it out. We read countless books, watch endless videos, chase spiritual experiences, and more to satisfy this hunger. And this is a double-edged sword, because knowledge can be good, which leads you towards the divine, or it can be bad, which leads you away from the divine. But the most nefarious knowledge is that which presents itself as wisdom, but actually leads you away from the divine, such as the spiritual teachers that fleeced me for $6,000. They presented themselves as these divine beings. Oh, we're going to share all these spiritual teachings and technologies with you. But in our ignorance, we are forced to learn the hard way. And if we keep empowering the mind's hunger for knowledge, it searches for more and more complex answers in an attempt to explain and understand how the divine works. But the divine is beyond mental comprehension. So the quicker you can move into faith, the better it will be for the ascension of your soul. And along this path, I have met many characters, even those that have created entire universes of form within their mind to convince themselves they understand how reality works. Sadly, hunger of worldly knowledge is generally linked to an ego that wants to be validated in some shape or form. And the more complex the story, the bigger the lie to convince the eye. But remember, the truth is simple, so very simple. And adding layers and layers of worldly knowledge only ends up burying the truth deeper and deeper under a mountain of lies that blocks the inner eye. In the scripture, it says, everyone talks about spiritual wisdom and spiritual knowledge. Talking. They argue and suffer. No one can stop talking and discussing it. Without being imbued with the subtle essence, there is no liberation. So you can see that these knowledge-based accumulations ultimately only lead to separation and debate, as the self-proclaimed spiritually enlightened end up arguing over your way versus my way ceaselessly. If your spiritual knowledge is leading to separation that isn't knowledge, that's ignorance. My master says that true knowledge is based on direct experience through meditation on the Nam, Nam being the name of the divine. That spiritual knowledge is one that isn't written in books because it is beyond the spoken word. And of course, studying your scriptures and spiritual text is important, but application and embodiment should be the result of your efforts. Not that it sounds good when you move your lips or you put a post up on Facebook, but behind closed doors, you're actually infested with the 5 thieves of anger, lust, greed, ego, and attachment. The hypocrite receives no honor in the court of the Lord. So we have to be brutally honest in our self-assessments and shore up those areas where we say one thing, but do another, so that we can truly come into alignment with a divine lifestyle. And so overcome anger, greed, lust, ego, attachment. Embody contentment, compassion, love, truth, and humility. And so now you know some of the red flags to be aware of in spiritual teachers, in others, and even in ourselves. We also know how simple the path really is. But simple doesn't equate to easy. Nobody said the path was easy. But as my master says, you are on a beautiful journey that only becomes more beautiful with each step that you take towards the divine. And by flapping the wings of Seva and Simran, and by being aware of the red flags, surely you will fly high to the heights of your spiritual growth and beyond. So all in all, meditate to elevate your mind state and dream awake, to find the Sangat and co-create a more beautiful existence for one and all, then heed the master's call and serve at their lotus feet. Pleasing the divine, one becomes one, to reflect the light of the eternal sun, and the work is done. So let the play begin. Blessings, Sangatji. Peace be with you all. Thank you so much for listening today. Waheguru Khalsa, Waheguru Fateh. So sometimes poems are serious. This one's going to be a little bit tongue-in-cheeky on spiritual salesmanship. So enjoy. I'm selling love. Is anyone buying? Giving it away for free, and I'm not even trying. It will have you sky high and feel like you're flying. I swear to God that I'm not even lying. And once you're past the paywall, I promise you that you'll never fall, because this sales ladder takes you all the way to the top. Express elevator to your true self with the divine as the bellhop. Ding, enlightenment is the next stop. The doors fly open and I'm wide-eyed. Surprised, oh my, the divine didn't lie. It was everything that I wanted and more. And all my problems are resolved because I left them all waiting outside the front door. Vampires, goblins, demons, none of you getting in. But then I begin to scratch my chin. Even Satan needs love. And what if I could deceive the deceivers and turn them into righteous overachievers? Trick a faithless sinner into becoming a pious believer? First, I would have to get them to buy. No, let's make it free for them to try. Just one taste and they'll want more. But their posture, their discipline, their willpower is so poor. Hey, nobody said dealing with the devil was easy. It's light work to open heavy doors, but we will not take on your chores. We will only show you how to scrub the temple floors. Encouraging them from the sidelines, I promise to cheer you on. And when you finally achieve, I'll let out a yawn and ask you, what took you so long? I kid. We'll share a good laugh and get back to the task. Now it's your turn to ask, who wants to learn? So that you can earn the true currency of LOVE and set your soul free for free. And the truth is, the spiritual masters aren't for sale. It is the job of the true spiritualists to raise their vibration through the mantra and seva, find the Sangat of the Holy, and be able to meet the master. So blessings to you on your journey, Sangat ji.